Welcome back to Face the Nation. I'm Nancy Cordes. Our next guest, John Podesta, was the chairman of Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign. His private emails were hacked and released publicly by Russian-backed entities during the campaign. Mr. Podesta, thank you so much for being with us.
Nice to be back, Nancy.
For anyone who voted for Hillary Clinton, these new indictments mean what?
Well, look, it's a tragedy for the American people, really. As Mr. Mueller said in his indictment, this was an act of information warfare against the United States, against our democracy. So I think it's obviously disappointing to those of us who were on the receiving end of these Russian active measures. But I think the real victims here are the American people, because there was direct interference with our democratic institutions.
The Deputy Attorney General was very careful on Friday to say that we don't know whether or not this operation swayed the election. You've had a lot of time to think about this. Where do you come down on that issue?
Well, look, this was one part of a complex, active interference in the measures. This didn't even deal with the hacking. This was only about what was going on in the social media and the information campaign that was being done there. But there were 80 people, millions of dollars spent. And as one of your previous guests, Senator Coons, noted, we won the popular vote by 3 million votes. They were pushing votes, just to give one example, to Jill Stein. Her vote in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin was greater than the gap between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton in those states. So you can't prove that it did affect the outcome, but it certainly seems likely that it had some impact.
But it does beg the question, how is it that these Russian operatives knew to focus on purple states like Michigan and Wisconsin, and your campaign didn't?
Well, of course, we spent a lot of time and energy and effort in all those states.
Hillary Clinton herself did not spend much time in those states.
We had Tim Kaine was there, Barack Obama was in, and she spent enormous time in Pennsylvania and Michigan.
Sure.
And we spent a lot of effort. We had more staff in Wisconsin than even President Obama had in 2012. But I think that begs the question. I think we focused on the places we thought were that were, in contest, and in the end of the day, we fell short in those states. And I think that this active measures effort by the Russians could have tilted the election in Donald Trump's favor. But I think what the real issue is how he's reacted to it. And in that context, if this is information warfare, then I think he's the first draft dodger in the war. Mm-hmm. I mean, he has done nothing but tried to undermine the Mueller investigation. He hasn't implemented the sanctions that was passed by the Congress and that he signed in reaction to the activities in the 2016 election. We learned this week he's ordered no effort to try to get the intelligence community to get together to try to prevent further activities in the 2018 election.
Why do you think that is? Do you think that it's because to do so would be to admit that somehow the Russians might have influenced this election?
Well, I think that Mr. Trump's psyche is complicated, and people have said a lot about it. But he certainly can't accept that this activity may have helped him, and I think he just constantly tries to move the ball away, including what was, I think, really a despicable tweet about the fact that he's blaming the FBI for investigating the Russia investigation and somehow relating that to the tragic killings in Florida. But, who knows with Mr. Trump, but he clearly, I think, has failed in carrying out his duty as President of the United States, which is to protect our democracy.
Midterm elections are coming up, and it's been reported that Democrats are telling your former boss, Bill Clinton, that in light of the Me Too movement, they think he should sit it out. He should be benched, and they're not looking for him to actively campaign for them. Is that true, and do you think that that's the right call?
Look, I think, he's remains, I think, a figure who is popular with a lot of Democrats across the country, and I think that people are calling him, candidates are calling him and asking for advice. But whether he's going to be an active participant, I think that's not, really on the top of his mind right now. I think he's doing other things, and people make their own judgments about whether he can be helpful in the campaign.
Do you think it's a good idea, very quickly, for him to sit it out?
Well, look, I think that if I was advising a campaign and a candidate about what to do, I would sort of judge whether he can be helpful. And I think some places he can be, and probably some places he's more of a lightning rod.
All right, John Podesta, thank you so much, campaign chairman for Hillary Clinton. And we'll be right back with our panel of Republicans who are leaving the House and Senate.